She left the library with a book about horses and a dream of working with animals. Less than an hour later, police found her favorite silver butterfly hair clip, crushed into the dirt beside her body. Kathy Jones was 12 years old, and someone shattered her world forever. A quiet neighborhood where kids ride bikes until sunset, where front doors stay unlocked, and everyone knows your name. Now picture that same street, forever shadowed by a single question. Who could murder a child in cold blood? This isn't fiction. This is the story of Kathy Jones, a bright, smiling 12-year-old whose life ended in unspeakable violence. Her case remains unsolved, her killer still walking free. And today, we're digging into the evidence that still haunts investigators. Her silver butterfly hair clip was found crushed into the dirt beside her body. But before that moment, before the horror, Kathy Jones wasn't a headline. She was a freckle-faced 12-year-old with a gap between her front teeth when she smiled, which was often. She was the girl who'd spend hours sketching horses in the margins of her math notebook, dreaming of being a vet. The same girl who sang slightly off-key in the church choir every Sunday because she loved how the hymns made her feel, not how she sounded. Kathy wasn't just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a soul who radiated kindness in a world that gave her back cruelty. Her teachers called her the peacemaker. If two kids argued on the playground, Kathy was the one gently pulling them aside, not to lecture, but to listen. What happened? She'd ask. How can we fix it? She carried Band-Aids in her backpack, not for herself, but for scraped knees on the soccer field, at the local animal shelter. She'd sit for hours in the hay-scented kennels, reading aloud to trembling rescue dogs. They just need to know someone's here, she told her mom. And at home, she was fiercely protective of her 8-year-old brother, Jamie. If he had a nightmare, Kathy would let him crawl into her bed, telling him stories about brave knights and friendly dragons until his breathing slowed. She'd tuck handwritten notes into his lunchbox, inside jokes, doodles of his favorite superhero, or just 3 words, "You got this." Her parents described her as an old soul, quietly observant, the kind of kid who'd rather help you plant tomatoes in the garden than scroll through a phone. She collected smooth stones from the creek behind their house, each one a memory keeper. She'd write tiny wishes on them in silver ink. Hope Jamie wins his race. Please let Snowball's paw heal, and hide them under her pillow. To her friends, she was the steady one, the listener, the girl who'd show up with your favorite candy after a bad day. There was nothing dark in Kathy's world. No secret grudges, no whispered threats, just a girl who loved lemonade stands, library books about wild mustangs, and the feeling of grass under her bare feet, which is why what happened next makes no sense at all. June 14th, 1998, a Tuesday, ordinary in every way. Until it wasn't. The sun was high, the air warm. Oakwood Middle School let out at 3:15 p.m. Kathy Jones pushed through the double doors, her backpack swinging. She waved goodbye to Sarah Miller, who was heading to soccer practice. "See you tomorrow," Kathy called. Her friend Emily Chun remembered Kathy humming a song from choir rehearsal as she walked away, her brown ponytail bouncing. That was the last time anyone at school saw her alive. Kathy walked the familiar route home, a 10-minute path she'd taken 1,000 times. But today, she had a stop to make. She'd told her mother, Linda, that morning, "Just need to grab that horse book from the library. Mom, back by 4:30. Promise." Linda nodded, reminding her to be careful crossing Elm Street. Kathy rolled her eyes playfully. Always am. That easy exchange, that simple mother-daughter moment, it was the last normal conversation they'd ever have. At 3:35 p.m., Kathy entered the Oakwood Public Library. Mrs. Gable, the librarian, later confirmed she checked out the illustrated guide to horse breeds. Kathy smiled, thanked her, and tucked the book into her worn blue backpack. The library's old wall clock read 3:42 p.m. as she pushed through the heavy front doors back into the sunlight. A security camera above the entrance, broken for 3 weeks, remained a silent, useless witness. At 3:45 p.m., Kathy stopped at Marty's corner store. She bought a small lemonade with the $1 her dad had given her for helping weed the garden. Marty Petrovich, the owner, recalled her being cheerful, said she was excited about the book. He told police, sipped her drink right there by the magazine rack. She left at 3:52 p.m., turning left onto Willow Lane, the shortcut home through Willow Park. At approximately 4:10 p.m., Retired mailman Arthur Finch saw Kathy walking along the gravel path near the park's big oak tree. He waved from his porch across the street. She waved back. He remembered thinking how young she looked, dwarfed by her backpack. She was alone. He went inside. That was the last confirmed sighting of Kathy Jones. 4:30 p.m. came, then 4:45 p.m. Linda Jones stood at the kitchen window, watching the street. Kathy's peanut butter sandwich sat untouched on the counter. Linda's unease grew with each passing minute. She called Kathy's friend Emily. "Is Kathy with you?" Emily said no. Linda called Sarah's house. Nothing. By 5 p.m., a cold dread had settled in Linda's stomach. She called her husband. "Robert, at work. Kathy's not home." Robert Jones raced home. He drove Kathy's route himself, past the library, past Marty's, through Willow Park. He called her name out the car window. Nothing, just the rustle of leaves in the empty park. At 5:30 p.m., with the sky beginning to bruise purple with dusk, they called the Oakwood Police Department. Officer Dale Peterson took the report. A missing 12-year-old girl, last seen near Willow Park. He noted the parents' fear, raw and choking in their voices. The routine had just shattered. By 6:15 p.m., the first patrol car was sweeping the neighborhood. By 7 p.m., neighbors gathered on the Jones front lawn, flashlights in hand. Word spread like a cold wind through Oakwood. Kathy's missing. Faces were pale, voices hushed. "How? Here, Kathy Jones? The girl who helped Mrs. Henderson carry groceries last week?" Robert organized search parties. Maps were spread on the hood of his car. Groups fanned out, down sidewalks, into backyards, calling her name into the thickening twilight. "Kathy!" The sound echoed. Unanswered, off silent houses. Flashlight beams cut through the darkening streets, dancing over hedges and fences. They checked the park again. The playground, behind the school. Nothing. No dropped book. No torn piece of clothing. Just an aching void. Linda stayed by the phone, her knuckles white as she gripped the receiver. Every ring was a jolt of terror or hope. Was it Kathy? Was it news? It was neighbors offering help. It was distant relatives. Horrified. It was never Kathy. Night fell completely. Streetlights cast long, lonely shadows. Volunteers kept searching, their voices growing hoarse. "Kathy! Kathy! Can you hear us?" Searchers combed the edges of Black Creek Ravine. Just half a mile beyond Willow Park, their lights skimmed over tangled brush and dark trees. They saw nothing unusual. No sign. Midnight passed. The air turned chilly. Most searchers went home, exhausted, promising to return at dawn. The Jones house remained lit up, a beacon of desperate hope in the sleeping town. Robert paced the living room floor, wearing a path in the carpet. Linda sat frozen at the kitchen table, staring at Kathy's untouched sandwich. The silence in the house was suffocating. No laughter, no footsteps, just the terrible, hollow quiet of a child's absence. Dawn on June 15th brought no relief, only a deeper dread. The daylight search was more systematic, wider. Police brought dogs. They walked grid, patterns through fields and wooded lots. News vans arrived, their satellite dishes sprouting like strange metal flowers. Kathy's school photo, her gap-toothed smile, the glint off her silver butterfly clip, stared out from hastily printed flyers plastered on every lamppost and store window. Missing. The words screamed from the paper. The hours bled into another day. June 16th. Hope, once a bright flame, was now a fragile thread. Searchers combed further out, abandoned barns, drainage ditches. Rumors flew. Had she run away? Was she hurt somewhere? The police questioned David Mercer, the quiet neighbor. They spoke to Coach Riley. Nothing concrete. No leads. Just dead ends and deepening fear. The community's initial shock hardened into a grim, shared anxiety. People locked doors they'd never locked before. Parents held their children's hands tighter, walking to the bus stop. 3 days, 72 hours, an eternity when a child is missing. For Linda and Robert Jones, it was a descent into a nightmare. Sleep was impossible. Food tasted like ash. Every creak of the house, every phone ring, was a fresh wave of nauseating hope and crushing despair. They clung to that thread, the fragile hope she was alive. Lost, maybe hurt but alive, they replayed her last morning. Her last words, over and over, back by 4:30. Promise. The silence that followed her failure to return was the loudest sound they'd ever heard. It swallowed their world, and hanging over it all, unspoken but suffocating, was the terrifying question. Where is our little girl? 3 days. That's how long Kathy Jones was missing. 3 days of searching, hoping, praying. On the morning of June 17th, 1998, two hikers named Mark and Elena decided to explore a trail near Black Creek Ravine. It was a place volunteers had searched twice already, but sunlight hit the trees differently that day. Mark noticed something unnatural, a pile of freshly broken branches stacked too carefully against a mossy log, just off the main path. He pushed them aside. What he saw beneath them stopped his heart. He screamed, not a shout, a raw, animal scream that echoed through the silent woods. Elena ran to him. Then she screamed too. They had found Kathy Jones. She was lying on her side, curled almost like she was sleeping, but the violence done to her was impossible to ignore. Her blue backpack, the one covered in horse stickers, was torn open near the shoulder strap. School papers and library books were scattered in the dirt nearby. Her knees were scraped raw through her jeans, deep scratches on her palms. She had fought back. Hard. Her body was hidden. Yes, but not buried, just covered quickly, as if someone wanted her found eventually. But not yet. Not while they still had time to run. Police arrived within minutes. The first officer on the scene, Sergeant Roy Miller, later said it was the worst thing he'd ever witnessed in 20 years on the force. Not just because she was a child, because of the brutality, the sheer anger in it. The official cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. Something heavy, something vicious. The medical examiner would later confirm she died quickly. But the terror she felt before that lingered in the scene. Detective Angela Rossi arrived next. Her eyes scanned the ground, looking for anything the killer might have dropped. A footprint in the soft mud near the log, a cigarette butt, a thread of fabric. But then her gaze locked onto something small, gleaming dully in a patch of dirt just inches from Kathy's outstretched hand. It was Kathy's favorite hair clip, the tiny silver butterfly she wore almost every day, the one her grandmother had given her for her 12th birthday. Only now, it wasn't silver and delicate. It was smashed, crushed flat, as if someone had stomped on it with all their weight, grinding it into the dirt beside her. Detective Rossi froze. This wasn't just murder. This was hatred. This was personal. That crushed butterfly clip told a story the words blunt force trauma never could. It wasn't dropped. It wasn't lost in a struggle. It was destroyed deliberately. A final act of contempt. A message. Taking her life wasn't enough. They wanted to destroy something beautiful she loved. Right next to her. They wanted to erase a piece of her. News spread through Oakwood like a poison gas. Whispers on porches. Sobs behind closed curtains. The search parties that had gathered hopefully just hours before now stood silent. Numb. Volunteers hugged each other, tears streaming down dirty faces. The flicker of hope, the desperate belief that Kathy would be found alive, was snuffed out, replaced by a cold, heavy grief. At the Jones house, the phone rang. It was Chief Reynolds himself. He didn't need to say much. Linda Jones collapsed onto the hallway floor, a sound escaping her that wasn't human. Robert stood like stone, staring at the wall where Kathy's last school photo hung. The one where she wore that silver butterfly clip. The ravine became a crime scene. Yellow tape stretched between trees, blocking the world out. Officers moved slowly, carefully, their faces grim. They photographed everything. The broken branches, the torn backpack, the scattered papers, the scrapes on the log where Kathy's shoes had dug in during the struggle. They marked the spot where the butterfly clip lay crushed. The silence of the woods was now broken by the click of cameras, the murmur of investigators, the crackle of police radios. Nature itself felt violated. Detectives questioned Mark and Elena again. Had they seen anyone? Heard anything? No, just the birds, just the creek. The trail was popular, but not at that early hour. The killer had chosen well. Hidden, quiet, close enough to Kathy's home to be terrifyingly intimate. Barely a mile away. She had almost made it. That haunted everyone. She was so close to safety. The medical examiner took Kathy's body away. They covered her gently with a white sheet. Watching that small, covered shape being carried out of the woods broke something in the community. Parents held their children tighter that night. Doors stayed locked. Lights stayed on. The illusion of Oakwood's safety was gone forever. Fear had moved in. Back at the station, Detective Rossi stared at the evidence bag, holding the crushed butterfly clip. It felt heavy, symbolic. This wasn't some random predator snatching a child. A random killer doesn't take the time to crush a little girl's hair clip beside her body. A random killer doesn't hide her with such casual brutality so close to home. This was someone who knew Kathy, someone who maybe hated her, or hated what she represented, someone who felt rage deep enough to destroy something precious even after ending her life. This was personal, deeply, chillingly personal, and that meant the killer wasn't some passing stranger. The killer was likely still here, in Oakwood, walking among them, someone they all might know. The search for a missing girl was over. Now began the hunt for a murderer, and the only clear clue they had, besides the violence itself, was that tiny, flattened piece of silver, a broken butterfly lying in the dirt, a silent scream of hatred left at the scene. With Kathy found, the horror wasn't over. It sharpened. Oakwood police now faced a terrifying question. Who among them could do this? Who hated a 12-year-old girl enough to crush her spirit and her life? The crime scene offered little. No fingerprints on the branches. No clear footprints in the damp earth near the log. No murder weapon left behind. Just that crushed silver butterfly clip screaming its silent message. This was personal. So detectives turned to the people in Kathy's world. They began looking hard at faces once familiar. Shadows started to deepen around three men. First, David Mercer. He lived alone in a small, cluttered house on Sycamore Lane, barely 6 blocks from the ravine where Kathy was found. Neighbors called him the quiet one. He kept his lawn overgrown, his curtains always drawn, rarely waved back, worked odd hours as a night janitor at the high school. On the afternoon Kathy disappeared. Around 4:20 p.m., Mrs. Eleanor Grant from across the street saw David pacing near the entrance to the Black Creek trailhead. Not walking, pacing, back and forth, like he was waiting for something or nervous. He wore dark jeans and a gray hoodie, even in the June heat. When police knocked on his door that first night of the search, David seemed jumpy, sweating. He said he'd been home all afternoon, sleeping. No one could confirm that. No phone calls, no visitors, just his word. And David Mercer had a past, a sealed juvenile record for setting fire to a neighbor's shed when he was 15. An ex-girlfriend in the next county had filed a restraining order 2 years prior, claiming he'd shoved her into a wall during an argument. He'd lost his job at the hardware store after yelling at a customer's child. Detective Rossi sat across from him in the cramped interview room. David wouldn't meet her eyes. He fidgeted. His story about sleeping felt thin. When she mentioned seeing him near the ravine, he snapped. "I like walks." That a crime? But his hands shook when he said it. He became a focus, a man with violence in his history. Seen near the crime scene, with no alibi. Second, Coach Ben Riley. He coached Kathy's junior soccer team, the Oakwood Strikers. Parents loved him. Charming. Always had a joke. Organized team picnics. Kids called him Coach Ben. But after Kathy's death, whispers started. A few girls on the team confided in each other. Then to a school counselor. Coach Ben gave long hugs after practice. Hugs that made them uncomfortable. Hugs where his hands lingered low on their backs. He'd sometimes offer rides home, alone in his van. Kathy had been on his team for 2 seasons. She'd never said anything specific to her parents, but Linda Jones recalled Kathy being quiet after practice sometimes. Just tired, she'd said, but now doubts crept in. Police pulled Coach Ben's records. No criminal history. Clean as a whistle. He volunteered at church. He was married, with 2 young daughters. When detectives questioned him, he was all concern and sorrow. Kathy was a bright light. He said, eyes damp. His alibi for June 14th? He claimed he was at the school field until 4 p.m. packing away equipment, then drove straight home. His wife confirmed he arrived around 4:45 p.m. The school was only 10 minutes from his house. That left a gap, a 30-minute window where his whereabouts were less certain. Could he have intercepted Kathy walking home? Was the charming coach mask hiding something darker? Parents started pulling their daughters from his team. The whispers grew louder. Was his interest in the girls more than coaching? Third, the mystery man. 3 days before she vanished, Kathy had gone to the quick-stop gas station on Elm Street to buy a soda. Marty Petrovich from the corner store wasn't working that day. It was a different clerk, an older man named Gus Henderson. Gus remembered Kathy clearly. She was upset, flustered. He saw her arguing with a man near the air pump outside. Not yelling, but intense. Kathy was shaking her head, stepping back. The man was tall, thin, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. Gus couldn't see his face well. He wore a dark blue windbreaker. Even though it was warm, Kathy hurried inside, bought her soda, and left quickly, glancing over her shoulder. Gus thought little of it. Kids argue with adults sometimes, teachers, parents, neighbors. But after Kathy's disappearance, he called the police tip line. He described the man, maybe late 30s or early 40s. Pale skin, a scratch or red mark on his left hand. Driving an older, boxy sedan, maybe a gray Chevy, that was gone by the time Kathy left the store. Who was he? Kathy hadn't mentioned any argument to her parents or friends. Was it a stranger? A teacher? Someone connected to her father's work? Robert Jones had recently testified against a local construction boss accused of fraud. Threats had been muttered. Was this man connected? Police tried to find him. They checked traffic cameras nearby. None pointed at the quick stop lot. They asked around the neighborhood. Had anyone seen a gray, boxy sedan? A man in a blue windbreaker? Nothing solid emerged. He was a ghost, a shadow in a gas station parking lot. Detectives worked these leads relentlessly. They searched David Mercer's house. They found nothing linking him to Kathy, no trophies, no hidden weapons, no blue windbreaker, just clutter and loneliness. They dug deeper into Coach Riley's life, interviewed every girl on his team. While the weird hugs were inappropriate, deeply uncomfortable, no one reported anything more overt happening. No evidence placed him near Willow Park or the library that afternoon. His wife stood firmly by his alibi. The mystery man? He vanished. No similar cars flagged in the area. No witnesses beyond Gus, whose memory grew fuzzier by the day. The scratch on the hand, untraceable. The physical evidence offered no help. No usable DNA was recovered from Kathy's body or clothes that didn't belong to her or her family. Contamination in the early hours remained a possibility. The murder weapon was never found. A rock, a hammer, something heavy and blunt. Discarded somewhere between the park and the ravine. They searched storm drains, dumpsters, creeks. Nothing. The crushed butterfly clip yielded only dirt and Kathy's own hair. No foreign fibers. No prints. Weeks turned into months. David Mercer stopped leaving his house much at all. Coach Ben Riley resigned from coaching, citing family reasons, and moved his family out of Oakwood the following year. The mystery man remained just that, a mystery. Leads dried up. Tips slowed from a flood to a trickle, then stopped. Promising threads unraveled into nothing. Detectives stared at case files filled with maybe, and could have and possibly. Strong suspicions weren't proof. Haunting questions weren't answers. The shadows around these three men remained, but the light needed to expose a killer never came. The evidence, like smoke, drifted away, and Kathy's murderer stayed hidden. Somewhere in those deepening shadows, or perhaps walking freely in the terrible, ordinary light of day. The official investigation stalled. The suspects remained shadows. But in the silence, theories grew. People needed answers. They needed to make sense of the senseless. How could a girl like Kathy, in a town like Oakwood, meet such a brutal end? The lack of evidence became a dark canvas. Three main pictures emerged, each trying to explain the unexplainable, each with its own chilling logic and its own glaring holes. Theory 1, the opportunistic predator. The simplest explanation. A stranger, someone passing through, a monster hiding in plain sight, waiting near a place children frequented, the library. He sees Kathy, alone, seizes his chance, lures her or forces her into the woods. The struggle near the log, her fighting for her life. The hidden body, a panicked attempt to delay discovery. The brutal method, the act of a violent, impulsive person. It fits the randomness of evil. But problems arise. Why leave Kathy's simple silver necklace, a thin chain with a tiny horseshoe charm, untouched around her neck? A predator stealing a child wouldn't pause to crush a hair clip deliberately, but ignore jewelry right there? And why leave the backpack torn open? Content scattered. If it was a quick snatch, why linger? Why the specific, almost symbolic violence to the clip? The opportunistic theory feels incomplete. It doesn't explain the personal touch of that crushed butterfly. Theory 2, revenge against Robert Jones. Kathy's father, Robert, was an accountant. 6 months before Kathy died, he testified in court against a local construction company owner, Frank Delaney. Delaney was accused of running a complex fraud scheme, stealing millions. Robert's testimony was key. Delaney went to prison. His associates were furious. Threats were whispered. Robert even reported a slashed tire, a brick through his office window. Was Kathy's murder a message? A way to destroy Robert Jones by taking what he loved most? It explains the brutality, sending a shockwave. It explains the location, close to home, maximizing terror. It might even explain the crushed clip, a final insult to Robert, destroying something precious belonging to his daughter. The mystery man at the gas station? Could he have been one of Delaney's men, sizing Kathy up, maybe trying to scare her days before? But problems surface. Why Kathy? Why not target Robert directly? Or his wife? Or his son? Hurting a child is a drastic escalation. Even for criminals, Delaney's crew were white-collar crooks turned violent, not known for child murder. Police dug deep. They surveilled Delaney's known associates. They found rage. Yes, but no concrete link to June 14th. No whispers in jailhouse calls about the Jones girl. No one bragging. Revenge is a powerful motive, but without a single thread connecting it directly to Kathy's last moments. It remains a dark cloud, not a clear storm. Theory 3, the trusted betrayal. The darkest possibility, the one that haunts Oakwood's sleep. Someone Kathy knew, someone she felt safe with, a neighbor she'd waved to, a coach she respected, a family friend who gave her birthday presents, maybe even someone closer. This theory starts with the crushed butterfly clip. That act wasn't just violence. It was rage, contempt, hatred directed at Kathy herself, not just at her father. Who could hate a 12-year-old girl enough to do that? Someone she rejected? Someone she saw doing something wrong? Someone whose advances she refused? It explains the personal signature left at the scene. It explains how she might have been lured away quietly. Hey, Kathy, come see this in the woods, without a loud struggle until the very end. It explains why the killer felt comfortable hiding her body near a familiar trail. They knew the area intimately. It even casts a different light on the suspects. Could David Mercer, the reclusive neighbor, have fixated on Kathy? Seen her kindness as an opening? Could Coach Riley's weird hugs have masked a dangerous obsession that finally erupted? Was the gas station argument Kathy telling a trusted adult no to something, sparking that rage? Or was it someone else entirely? Someone never even questioned? This theory forced people to look sideways at faces they knew. At the quiet uncle who visited often. At the friendly mailman who knew everyone's routines. At the older boy down the street Kathy sometimes talked to, even uncomfortably at home. Kathy's younger brother, Jamie, was only 8, but after her funeral, his behavior changed. He became withdrawn, angry. He had nightmares so violent he'd scream himself awake. He started wetting the bed again. Years after stopping, he drew disturbing pictures at school, dark shapes in woods. When a child psychologist gently asked about Kathy, Jamie clammed up, shut down completely. Was it just profound grief? Or did 8-year-old Jamie see something that afternoon? Hear something? Know something he couldn't process? Did he feel guilt for some sibling argument, blown out of proportion in his young mind? Or was there a darker reason for his terror? The theory whispers the unthinkable. Could someone in the family be involved? It's the theory no one wants to voice, but many can't stop thinking. It's the shadow that falls longest. Each theory tries to solve the puzzle. The opportunist explains the how, but not the why of the clip. Revenge explains the why of the violence, but not necessarily why Kathy was the target. The trusted betrayal explains the crushing personal hatred, but feels like staring into an abyss, terrifying and impossible to prove. Without evidence, without a confession, without a single undeniable fact pointing one way. These theories aren't answers. They're ghosts. They haunt the Jones family. Every time a new rumor surfaces. Did you hear about the coach? What about her brother's drawings? It's like tearing the wound open again. They live in a world of what-ifs. What if it was a stranger? What if it was because of Robert? What if it was someone they welcomed into their home? What if it was someone under their own roof? The theories don't bring Kathy back. They don't deliver justice. They only deepen the mystery, sharpen the pain, and ensure that the shadow over Oakwood, and over Kathy's memory, never truly lifts. Without proof, speculation isn't investigation. It's just another kind of violence. Kathy Jones' murder wasn't just brutal. It was a case riddled with cracks. Cracks that started small but grew into chasms, swallowing any chance of justice. The truth didn't vanish overnight. It leaked away, drop by drop, through mistakes, bad luck, and the cruel passage of time. Here's how hope froze solid. The first crack appeared before the investigation even truly began. When Kathy's body was found, the horror overwhelmed everyone. Sergeant Roy Miller, The first officer on that terrible scene was a good cop, a father himself. Seeing Kathy, a child, lying there broke him, in a desperate, misguided act of compassion. Before the forensic team arrived, he gently cleaned some of the dirt and leaves from her face and hands. He used a damp cloth from his patrol car. He meant no harm. He only wanted to show her dignity. But that simple act of kindness was catastrophic. It washed away trace evidence, skin cells under her fingernails from her attacker, maybe saliva, sweat, or fibers clinging to her skin. Tiny clues, invisible to the eye but vital to science, were gone forever. That damp cloth erased potential DNA. It was a well-intentioned mistake with devastating consequences. A critical thread, snipped before it could be followed. The second crack was pure, stupid bad luck. The Oakwood Public Library had a security camera above its front door. It pointed right at the spot where Kathy exited on June 14th at 3:42 p.m. It should have captured her leaving. It should have shown if anyone followed her, if someone waited nearby. But that camera hadn't worked properly for 3 weeks. Librarian Agnes Gable had reported the flickering image. The static. Weeks before, the request for repair got lost in town paperwork. Budget cuts. Delays. A simple, broken piece of technology became a gaping hole in the timeline. The last clear sighting of Kathy alive outside the library vanished into that blank screen. No faces. No vehicles. Just static where answers should have been. The third crack widened with the prime suspect. David Mercer, the reclusive neighbor seen pacing near the ravine. The man with no alibi and a history of flashes of violence. He was the focus for months. Detectives leaned hard on him, searched his house twice, watched him, but they found nothing concrete. No murder weapon hidden in his cluttered garage. No blue windbreaker. No confession wrung from his nervous silence. Then, in the bitter winter of 2002, for years after Kathy's death, David Mercer was found dead in his cold, dim living room, empty pill bottles beside him. An overdose. Suicide? Accident? No one knew for sure. The only certainty was this: whatever David Mercer knew, or didn't know, died with him. He took his secrets, whatever they were, into the grave. A door slammed shut. But the biggest crack? The one that swallowed everything else. Time. Simple, relentless time. At first, the tip line rang constantly. People called about strange cars, suspicious neighbors, odd behaviors they remembered from years back. Detectives chased every one. They drove to neighboring towns, knocked on doors at midnight, checked alibis for people mentioned in whispers. But as weeks turned into months, the calls slowed. People's memories faded. Details got fuzzy. The shock of the crime wore off for everyone except the Jones family. Life, in a terrible way, moved on for Oakwood. The missing flyers faded in the sun, were covered by new notices, or ripped down by the wind. The urgency dissolved. The detectives assigned to the case felt it too. The crushing weight of no leads. The frustration of dead ends. Detective Angela Rossi, who'd stared at the crushed butterfly clip, poured herself into the case. She worked late nights, re-interviewed witnesses, re-examined the scant evidence. But year after year, nothing broke open. The pressure mounted. Other cases piled up, new crimes, new victims demanding attention. In 2005, Detective Rossi suffered a minor heart attack. Stress, the doctors said. She took medical leave and never returned to active duty. Her deep knowledge of Kathy's case retired with her. Her replacement, Detective Mark Harris, was thorough, but it wasn't his case. He hadn't felt the visceral horror of the ravine. He hadn't seen Linda Jones collapse. The file became history, not a living nightmare pushing him forward. He reviewed it, but the fire was gone. Physical evidence degraded. The few fibers recovered from Kathy's clothes? Stored in paper envelopes, not airtight containers, in a room that wasn't climate-controlled. Over years, they likely became contaminated, useless. The murder weapon, never found, could have been anywhere, rusting in a ditch, buried in a landfill, tossed into the deep part of Black Creek. Every day it wasn't found made finding it less likely. People moved away. Coach Ben Riley left town. Marty from the corner store retired to Florida. Gus Henderson, the gas station clerk who saw the mystery man, passed away from old age. Potential witnesses scattered or died. The living memory of that specific day, June 14th, 1998, dimmed and blurred. The case file itself tells the story of decay, once thick with reports, interview transcripts, and evidence logs. It grew thinner. Pages went missing. A stray note about a curious car sighting 3 towns over. An early statement from a classmate that seemed unimportant then. Copies got misfiled. The sheer volume of paperwork generated in the frantic early days became its own burden. Buried under newer cases, the file was handled less and less. It was transferred from an active investigations drawer to a storage box, then to a larger storage box in a back room. Then, finally, sometime around 2010, it was placed in a long, gray cardboard box. That box was labeled with a simple, devastating word: Unsolved. It was stacked amongst dozens of others in a cool, dim room in the basement of the Oakwood Police Department. Dust settled on the lid. Kathy's case didn't explode and vanish. It didn't end with a dramatic failure. It froze, slowly, inexorably, like water turning to ice. A combination of human error, missed chances, bad timing, the death of a suspect, the fading of memory, the retirement of determined cops, and the unstoppable march of years. The clues weren't destroyed in a fire. They evaporated. They were washed away. They were buried. They were forgotten. The hunt didn't stop because they knew the killer got away. It stopped because the path forward vanished into fog. The trail went cold, not with a bang, but with the silent, final click of a storage room door closing on a box labeled Unsolved, leaving Kathy Jones, and the truth about her death, locked in the dark. So what do we know? We know Kathy bought a lemonade from a corner store at 3:45 p.m. We know she checked out a book on horse anatomy. We know she was alive at 4:10 p.m., seen cutting through Willow Park. And then, nothing. No screams. No tire tracks. Just a 12-year-old girl vanishing in broad daylight. Who followed her? Who hated her enough to do this? And why has justice been denied for 25 years? Kathy's case isn't just a file. It's a family's shattered world. Her mother still leaves porch lights on just in case. Her brother names every pet Kathy. And her father visits Black Creek every June 17th, leaving a new silver butterfly clip in the dirt. Somewhere, someone knows the truth. Maybe it's a guilt-ridden conscience. Maybe it's you, watching right now. If you know anything, a rumor, a name, a detail that didn't matter, come forward. Do it for the girl who sketched horses. Do it for justice delayed too long.